Next up is a good standard example, let's say, to get along with our include, exclude, fixed calculations as well. And I find this example very applicable for the moment, because it is going to talk about the amount of bed days we are using per clinical unit. I'm gonna excuse myself for 1 minute because I need a quick bio break, but after this quick 1 minute bio break, maybe you can also take a 1 minute bio break, because I need to take coffee or whatever, and then we make this exercise and go to the practical examples, and those practical examples are covering all the other types of LOD calculations as well. All right, be back in less than 1 minute. Hope everybody had the time to take coffee, but that was maybe quick. So what I was saying, this is a very applicable example, and we are going to compare different values on the same kind of view and different views where the level of detail is lower or higher, and see that the end result of values we are comparing is in the end the same by using it one time with a level of detail expression and one time without. So you can see that when the level of detail in your visualization is appropriate, those values also get generated, let's say. But if our level of detail is higher, so is less detailed, we can see that we can go to that value and get to that result. All right, so back out of our presentation and towards the exercise. Or maybe it's convenient to first show you the result we're after, let's say. So this is the result we're after. We are generating a timeline, and that timeline is on the level of detail being the month and the year our total number of days are generated. So that's aggregated to the level of month and year. You can see in that tooltip in the middle, I'll circle around it. We are also using the average of the maximum amount of days. So we are using an average of the maximum amount of days that different patients will stay in a certain clinical unit. But the level of detail here is not up until the point of clinical units. Clinical units is one level lower, and you can see that in the chart below. So that's one level deeper. Later, I will come back to a few questions I see popping up in the chat. All right. After this exercise, I will circle back to a few of those questions to make it clear for everybody. So don't assume that I've forgotten about all those questions popping up. Okay. So back to the exercise. Going back into Tableau itself. And we are going to take a look at the exercise itself. I need another workbook. Tableau is opening. Take a look. So the challenge is also in here, all right? So we are going to generate that timeline based on the date. And our date is stored in this episode start date time. We'll go to the level that is requested of us, being the month and the year combined here. So we have all our different months and years now generating columns, and this is our current level of detail of this visualization. All right. We are then going to take a look at our amount of hospital beds over time. So we are dragging in our hospital beds like this, and we have that total amount in the full data set. So this is now divided per month, and we see that that peak value is 33,131. If I want to use a lower level that is not yet in our visualization, but I do not want to change the level of detail here, we need to generate a calculation, and that calculation is being done by the maximum amount of bed days per clinical unit. All right. We are going to start typing our keyword we need to generate a level of detail calculation. In this case, we are gonna go one level deeper. So I already hear everybody saying this will probably be an example of an include statement. Including will give us the correct syntax for the include level of detail expression. Include clinical unit being that lower level we are interested in. Then we are going to take a look at the maximum bed days in that clinical unit, and we always have to close down with our special curly bracket. Our curly bracket, the aggregation is correct, so the calculation is valid in this case. I am now going to apply this calculation. It's become available in my measures, and I'm going to put that one on tooltip. If I now hover over, I see that I have a sum of the maximum amount of bed days, and I now still need to change the aggregation because we were interested based on the question on the average. And if I now take a look, I get a 64.85 amount of days on average. So that's on average per clinical unit, the amount of days a patient needs to stay. Okay, I am now going to generate a secondary visualization where we don't use an LOD, but where we go to the appropriate level of detail in the visualization itself, let's say. So let's create another sheet. This one is going to be our correct level, this level of detail. So the visualizations level of detail will be on the correct level to show us the same kind of values. So we are going to take a look at the same date. Let's build it the same way as before. So also on a monthly level, but the years included. So I take that date value to have that correct granularity of my visualization here. So I have 20 rows. I now go into the clinical unit and put it there as well. Okay, clear. I need it discrete, of course. Clinical episode, start date time. I want it on a monthly level. I want it discrete to have only the labels, and now I can start dragging my clinical unit, and now I get my structure of my visualization being on that same level of detail for that calculation to work in our first assignment. So the first column, being the month, is the level of detail in the first visualization. In the calculation of generating that max amount of hospital days, there we go one level deeper and include that clinical unit level, let's say, to generate those maximum hospital days. So we can now take our hospital days and make it a maximum to also have that same value in there to make comparison even useful, let's say. Now we are going to drag in our average line with our analytics pane on the left. We are going to drag in an average line. And that average line is going to be shown our value instead of the computation, just to make the comparison a little bit more easy on the eye. And to compare both visualizations, I'm going to quickly drag them on a dashboard to put them under each other. I'm going to make that upper sheet the filter of the lower sheet. And if I now select my May value, you can see in the tooltip that our average of the maximum amount of bed days is 64.85. And also down below, when we have filtered on that selection, you also see that we are looking at May 2009. For all the clinical units there, we have that maximum of the amount of bed days for that clinical unit, and the average value is also 64.85 rounded, let's say in this case. But you see that in the visualization down below, we have not used any kind of level of detail calculations. Why? Because our level of detail of the visualization itself was on the correct level. On top, we are only looking at the level of detail of our first column of the visualization down below. And we want to include that lower level to get to that value for our tooltip showing the same values on top and down below, let's say.